President Joe Biden signs the Inflation Reduction Act. Facebook implements new policies for the upcoming election. Joe Biden cancels student loan debt. And Liz Cheney has been defeated. All that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Wednesday, August 17th, and as always, I couldn't be happier than to share these mornings with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community, go over the stories of the day, and bring you all the news and information you need to know about. So heck, if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show, and we hope that you do, hop on the bandwagon, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, hit the plus to give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, you can find us everywhere. Leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be helping a conservative, but most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you could do us a favor, don't skip through the video. Watch the whole thing. If you're not interested in it, heck, mute it, walk away, go to the bathroom, grab a drink. That is supporting the channel here by hitting that like and subscribe button, commenting, and just watching it all the way through. It does yeoman's work, folks, for you to put in your time to help us out here at the Bald Brad Show. So it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, on another note, my voice might cut out during this thing because I am losing it. We are recording this way later than what we normally do because I'm trying to save it. I'm using all sort of herbal remedies, the cough drops, the tea, you name it. I'm trying to do it, folks, just so we can get an episode out to all you people because it's important. It's important to get the news out to the people, and especially news that you could trust and an opinion, hopefully, that you could trust as well and agree with. But if it cuts out again, I apologize. We're going to try to get through this kind of as quickly as we can, just so I literally don't lose it. Many of you know I'm a teacher. I'm also a professional ice hockey referee. This is my moneymaker. This is my moneymaker. And I mean, sometimes this is my moneymaker too, if you know what I mean. But all jokes aside, I do need this. So bear with me here. Our lead story of the day is Biden signing the $740 billion, yes with a B, Inflation Reduction Act. Just the government spending more freaking money, our hard-earned money. And the reason why I'm saying government is because, look, Republicans do the same thing. They've been spenders, and I think it's only right that if we're going to hound Democrats and progressive left, that we aren't hypocrites and we call out our own side when they do something as well. That's one thing I did not like under the Trump administration was how much money that man spent. I mean, he was just passing out money, spending money like it was hotcakes. That's not a conservative value, nor was that used to be a Republican value. And it seems as time goes on, Republicans are more willing to inherit and inculcate that value into the party. So yes, I'm a registered Republican, but at heart, I am a conservative, and that is not a conservative value to be spending money like that. You're not conserving anything. You're just getting rid of it. So Joe Biden's doing the exact same thing here by spending $740 freaking billion. I don't know if anybody's looked at the debt recently. It's a number that is so astronomical that you actually can't fathom how big that number is. That's how bad our debt is getting, or has been as well. So President Joe Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law on Tuesday, a move heralded by the Biden administration as a huge win and by Republicans as a devastating loss. I'm not really into saying it's a devastating loss. It is a loss within itself, but it doesn't really take away from anything. It doesn't really add to anything. It is going to add to the inflation a little bit, but at the same time, the numbers are so small that you could basically say close to zero. But if we wanted to be nitpicky, just like the Democrats and progressive left love to do in terms of definitions and phraseology and acronyms and all that stuff, it actually adds to the inflation, doesn't necessarily take away from it. So it's an Orwellian statement to say that this is the Inflation Reduction Act. It's super silly. So we'll check this out because this statement that President Joe Biden said is just, just another nutso thing he says. During the bill signing on Tuesday, Biden called the legislation, quote, one of the most significant laws in our history. What? Out of all the laws, this one's one of the most significant. God, this guy's so dumb. It's just amazing. It really is. I mean, to show for this guy out like this, it's messed up to do this to elderly people, but at the same time, to show for a puppet out that's just like a piñata and he'll say anything that you want him to say. It's just crazy. It's a crazy time we live in to see a president like this. And he joked that he never had a doubt that he had Senator Joe Manchin's support for the legislation. Really? Is that why it took upwards 18 months to get this thing through or whatever? Manchin, who struck a deal in private on the legislation with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat in New York, has claimed that this package will help the nation fight inflation. So Manchin, who we all think is really centrist, remember at heart, he is a Democrat. That's where he's going to lean towards. And I would love to know what this private deal was that was struck here, because he's going to be hopping on this bandwagon of it will help the nation fight inflation. Really? Does anybody believe that here at the Bald Brad Show? Leave me a comment down below if you do. And if you don't believe it, leave me a comment as well. It helps support the show. But I would also like to know who actually really believes this, because Chuck Schumer, who sometimes has a sane mind, unlike the rest of his party, is now touting the same falsehoods that his party's touting. The president's administration have promised that the act will lower the cost of energy, prescription drugs, and health care for American families. Where did we hear that before? What was like the last Democrat that said that? Oh, it was during the Affordable Care Act under the Obama administration. Yeah, I've heard this before. As well as combat the climate crisis, reduce the deficit, and force the largest corporations to pay their fair share in taxes. Man, just touting the whole Bernie Sanders. I mean, how much did Bernie have involved in this climate crisis? Reduce the deficit, fair share of taxes. They're also hiring 87,000 IRS agents to go after the billionaires, which there's not even that many billionaires to utilize 87,000 IRS agents. You think they're not going to come after you folks? We'll get into that in a moment. The legislation passed the United States House of Representatives and Senate last week, allocating $740 billion toward IRS services, IRS funding, Affordable Care Act subsidies, green energy subsidies, and tax credits, and more. I love that the tax credits that they're pushing for these electric vehicles don't in fact actually help with a lot of electric vehicles, meaning you won't be able to claim that tax credit because a portion of your vehicle might be made in China, or a portion of it's not even made here in America. And so you're not even gonna be able to claim either 50% or either any of the tax credit within itself. So a lot of this stuff is bogus, folks. It's just BS. It's crazy. Democrats claimed that the Inflation Reduction Act would allow Congress to pay down federal debt by leading to new federal revenue. I mean, what a gimmick, right? If you think about that, they're going to pay down, I think it was like $300 billion of debt over some sort of period in time. I mean, what a gimmick to say, hey, let us have $740 billion to spend, and at some point in time, we'll pay off $300 billion of like a $20 trillion national debt. I mean, what a selling point that freaking wooed all these Democrats, all these progressive leftists. I mean, you got to be insane, folks, to be able to vote for something like that. Like, that sounds like a great idea. Wow, $20+ trillion in debt, $300 billion. It's like the same idea of Joe Biden going out there and be like, oh, I'm going to pull a billion barrels from the petroleum reserve every month, when we use like $12 billion or 12 million barrels during a certain amount of time, where what you're doing, man, ain't going to be anything. It's a drop in the bucket, in the same way your $300 billion is a drop in the bucket on our national debt. That's $20+ trillion. But this is how they sell this stuff, and people actually just are totally on board with it. It's baffling. Republicans expressed strong concerns about the $80 billion allocated new funding to the IRS, allowing for up to 87,000 new IRS employees, and argued that poor Americans will subsequently face more audits. The Democrats are saying this isn't going to happen. As somebody that used to do taxes and still help friends and family out with taxes, this will, in the long run, go towards these agents, or these new employees, they're calling them, at some point will come after the lower or middle class. So this whole idea that they're just going to go after the billionaires, that's not what they're going to be used for. Why the hell would we ever believe in the government? Who trusts the government? I mean, this whole thing of somehow America folding and molding into this idea that we're supposed to just believe everything they say. Oh, your word is your bond. Do we forget that governments go usurpacious on their own citizens, that they lie to their own citizens all the time? And they're going to tell us here straight to our face, especially from the Democrat Party, who just lies just all the time. I mean, it's just pure diarrhea and caca always coming out of their mouth. They're going to tell us that this is never going to come after just normal Americans. Does 87,000 IRS agents, you don't think at any point in time that they're going to start coming after you once they handled all the billionaires? Let's just say theoretically, every single 87,000 IRS agents, it's not going to happen, but all of them go after the billionaires. Okay. There's not that many billionaires to utilize all 87,000 field agents, if that's what these are going to be, or IRS agents, whatever it's going to be. What are they going to do when just they use up, say, every single billionaire's in an audit? Literally every single one, hypothetically. It's not going to happen, but hypothetically. What are they going to do with the rest of those resources? You think that they're just going to go after businesses? You think they're just going to go after the millionaires? Or do you think they're going to utilize them to try and grab all the cash they can from you and I by doing audits? I think it's going to be the latter, folks. The latter. Quote, the law will increase historic inflation and deepen the ongoing recession, President and CEO of Job Creators Network said on Tuesday's statement. Not even the media, which is quick to echo Biden's claim, thinks the legislation will reduce inflation. No, it's only the crazy people in this photo here that think that this will. Notice it's Nancy Pelosi who, lies straight through her dentures every single week, is going to tout that it actually gets rid of inflation, or in other words, reduces it. I mean, it's amazing that you could smile in a photo like that when you're just lying to, 300 plus million people that live here in the United States. It's crazy how corrupt these politicians are. Quote, the law significantly raises taxes on job creators, including small businesses, to protect wealthy taxpayers in blue states. Well, Mr. Ortiz, I wasn't told that by the Democrat Party. I was told to believe them. That's what Jen Psaki touted. That's what Biden touted. That's what Harris touted. That's what Karine Jean-Pierre touts. As well as Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Bernie Sanders. I'm told that this isn't going to happen, so I should just believe them because it's lies. It's all lies. Ortiz is right here. It's going to raise taxes. Taxes are going to increase on the middle class. It's going to happen. You just don't take out all this money and spend all this stuff, increase inflation the way you are without raising taxes at some point. Furthermore, it adds a football stadium worth of new agents, IRS agents, to overwhelm small businesses with audits, double down on failing Obamacare exchanges, and threaten to innovate prescription drug supply chains. He added the law breaks Biden's promise not to raise taxes on ordinary earners and small businesses earning less than $400,000. It breaks the cardinal economic rule, never raise taxes during a recession. They don't care. They don't care. Look, they literally think that we're not in a recession. Remember, they redefined what a recession was. They have so many problems through the Biden administration that they literally had to redefine what a recession was just because they didn't want to tack on another problem to the list that they have that's ongoing. So, it's like, if you don't think it's a recession, of course you would raise taxes. You do anything, and it's just, you don't believe it. So crazy. Biden expects his legislation will save his presidency, but the practical effect on everyday Americans will only further doom it. On Monday, Congressman Jamie Raskin, which we covered the other day, triggered the wrath of Republicans by chatting about the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act until he was asked to point to a specific provision that would act to lower inflation. If you haven't seen that 24-second clip, look at the catalog from the other day. It's just baffling of how a reporter asks him specifically what's in the provision that will cause inflation to be reduced, and he couldn't name one. He just said, next question. Very similar to how Karine Jean-Pierre went on Jonathan Karl's ABC show, Newsweek, and he was asked about the same thing, of the fact that it's actually going to be negligible impact on inflation this year and barely impact inflation in the subsequent years. And she just gave some like asinine BS answer that you're looking for what she was talking about because she went off on some random tangent just like her boss and made no sense at all. We did an episode on that. I encourage you just to check out those two clips because it just shows you where the Democrat Party is at, is that they're so good at lying that things are so bad in what they're trying to push they actually can't come up with a concrete BS statement to at least fill in the gaps of what they're trying to say and make sense of what they're doing. That's how bad things are in terms of the policies, regulations, laws that they're trying to pass through this United States government. It's baffling. Speaking of other baffling things and other asinine things that somebody's trying to push here, Meta announces new policies and safeguards for 2022 midterms modeled after the 2020 policies. Speaking of Orwellian, here we go again, folks. Here we go again with this whole election shenanigans happening. They know it's coming. They know there's a red wave. I call it the red tsunami. And now they're going to do everything they can to limit your capacity and your ability to get news out there. Check this out. Pay attention because it impacts all of you. Facebook is still utilized a lot to get speech out there. Facebook is a lot larger company and technology that's utilized during elections to get information out there to the public. So this has an impact on all of us. If they're going to do this, can you imagine what Twitter's going to do? Twitter's doing some shenanigans over there as well, folks. So this plays in the hand of Google, Facebook, all the big tech that's going to affect you and I as conservatives and Republicans. So listen up. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, announced its own set of policies and safeguards to political discourse ahead of the 2022 midterms. In a blog post Tuesday, Meta announced that it would implement a series of policies to be used in the 2022 midterm elections, policies that are consistent with the same policies the platform used during the 22 election. Those policies include, here's a little bit of a list: preventing election and voter interference, connecting people with reliable information, and transparency around elections and advertising. This is some Orwellian stuff, folks. Basically, if we want to just put this in a nutshell, kind of wrap it up with a nice bow on top with what they're going to do, they're going to dictate what is truth and what is false. They're going to dictate what is real, what is reliable, and what isn't. That should scare all of you. That is literally from the playbook of George Orwell's 1984. We saw it happen in 2020. It's going to happen in 2022. So be ready to get your speech suppressed by Facebook, removed or flagged, even though you say something that is 100% truth, 100% verifiably truth has the possibility of being removed, has the possibility of being flagged, has all sorts of possibilities. And this is just Facebook. Can you imagine Twitter? Can you imagine what the hell they're going to do over there? With the 2022 US midterms on the horizon, we're setting out how our approach applies in this election cycle, which is largely consistent with the policies and safeguards we had in place during the 2020 US presidential election, which everybody hated. Nobody liked it other than the Democrats and the progressive left because they got their way. They got to say asinine things. There's Republicans and conservatives that say asinine things. I'm sure there's people on here that think I say asinine things. We all got a right to say it, but they're only going to suppress our speech. They're only going to suppress conservatives or Republican speech in favor of Democrats and progressive left so they can get their message out where we can't get our message out in the hopes that people vote Democrat rather than Republican. Our approach to the 2022 U.S. midterms applies learnings from the 2020 election cycle and exceeds the measures we implemented during the last midterm. Oh, well, isn't that just fun? Hey, not only did we learn everything, but hey, we're actually going to go above and beyond. This is going to be so terrible. This includes advanced security operations to fight foreign interference in domestic influence campaigns. Look, I'm all for that, but that whole push of the Russian collusion, this whole Russian thing happening on the 2020 election, they're still touting that whole thing, which is amazing, right? Because these are the ones that are supposed to be preventing election and voter interference and basically quantifying and authorizing what's reliable information, what isn't, from the same company that's still pushing this whole Russia collusion, Russian whole voter push and helping people swing the election in favor of the Republic. All that, they're still pushing it, but they're supposed to be the ones that are going to judge what's reliable information. It's been debunked, you guys. The whole Russia thing's been debunked. It's old, it's wrong, it's false, and they're still going to push it. This includes advanced security operations to fight first foreign interference and domestic influence campaigns, which we said, our network of independent fact-checker partners or fact-checking partners. Come on. I'm laughing because it's batshit crazy. I mean, I've coined that term, batshit crazy. Let's be honest, folks. This is what that is. And they're going to be the independent, okay? This is their words. Independent fact-checking partners. We all know how that goes. It's not independent at all. Just change that word independent with democratic and you'll probably be more accurate. Our industry-leading transparency measures around political advertising and pages, as well as new measures to help keep poll workers safe. Okay. All righty. Under the heading Preventing Election and Voter Interference, Meta touted its existing policies around removing hate speech. I told you they're the ones that are going to be the freaking the arbiters of truth. They're the ones that are going to sit there and be the councils of truth. And so basically you could say something that's not even intended to be hate speech. Somebody took it the wrong way and now you're removed. You know, we got Lucy on, I don't know if Lucy watches the show, but Lucy is somebody that I've connected with over TikTok, and her other gal, her other girlfriend, her friend, keep getting their TikToks removed because of hate speech, because they say something that offended somebody. And so what's stopping this from happening on Twitter? What's stopping this happening on Facebook, where you say something, somebody gets offended of it because some idiot doesn't have thick skin, and you get banned and removed. It's a crazy time we're living in where people are removing hate speech. What the hell is hate speech? You could say something that's so freaking PG-13, not even offending somebody. You could say, oh, it's raining outside. Somebody could take that offensive. I hate rain. I'm allergic to water. Water makes me itchy. You know, some stupid crap like that. And then you get freaking banned. I know it's an asinine analogy, but I'm sure it's even happened. That's how crazy the progressive left are. Well, this is noting that it already banned 270 white supremacist organizations and removed more than 2.5 million posts for hate speech in just the first quarter of 2022. I'm not a fan of white supremacy. I'm not a fan of racism. I don't like them at all. I don't want a single one of them to watch my show. I don't want them to subscribe. I don't like white supremacists at all. So am I for them being banned? No. The reason why is because people have a right to say what they want to say, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. If you're a Democrat, I will support your right to free speech. If you're a progressive leftist, I will support your right to free speech. If you're a freaking idiot, evil, white supremacist person, I will support your right to free speech. Whatever it is, you have the right to say whatever the hell you want to say. If somebody gets offended, that's their damn problem. But I think speech is so important that you can beat out falsehoods. You can beat out evil with truth. That comes obviously from Judeo-Christian values, but truth will always win. Truth will always set you free. You doing this is just putting everybody in a prison hold. It's not good for the country. It's not good for Americans. The company then touted its relationships with state and local election officials, federal agencies, and industry peers. Well, isn't that just fun? Not a private company anymore, a public company just getting mixed up with election officials and just the government. That's a recipe for success, folks, isn't it? Don't you just trust what's happening there over at Facebook when now they're working in conjunction with the government? But they're the arbiters of truth, guys. They're going to tell you what's reliable. They're going to tell you and flag you and make sure that you know what is actually facts, because it's coming from independent fact checkers, you guys. You're supposed to trust all this stuff. It went on to outline its content removal policies, as was the case in the US in 2020. Election-related content will remove includes misinformation about the dates, locations, times, methods of voting, misinformation who can vote, whether a vote will be counted, and qualifications for voting, and calls for violence related to voting, voter registration, or the administration or outcome of an election. We will reject ads encouraging people not to vote or calling into question the legitimacy of the upcoming election. So you can have voter fraud, like actual legit voter fraud, and you say something about it, it's going to get removed. That's literally in part what they're saying here, which happened in 2020. Literally dead people voted. It's verifiable. It's not a fake thing. I'm not saying that would swing the election. It is real. It did happen. You can't talk about it. This portion of the video might get flagged. We might not even get advertising on this portion of the video because we're talking about that. Literally people voted from addresses that didn't exist. The address itself existed. There was no building. I mean, you were literally out in the middle of the desert. There was some places that were literally would put you onto a freeway. There's no house. Like you would just be standing on a freeway and somehow people voted from that address. Explain to me how that is going to be removed when it is verifiably you could fact check it yourself. It's one of those things where literally you could take the registry from that locality, from that state, and go stand there yourself and actually take a freaking photo of the place, and you would still get removed from it. That's how crazy all this stuff is. We live, it's such a non-American milieu, a social fabric, that it's so freaking mind-bending. If people want to believe crazy things, they're going to believe crazy things, okay? Even though you try to remove it off Facebook, they're going to find other avenues of trying to search and seek out those crazy things. And you got to love it too, because the same people that want to remove the crazy things also try to keep sending you crazy things for you to indulge yourself with. So if you're like super into aliens or whatever, right? Whatever it may be. I'm just picking a thing because we talk about aliens on Supernatural Saturdays. Check out Supernatural Saturdays if you haven't. Then if you're into that and you want to indulge into that, then Google's going to have their algorithm keep indulging you with it. Same with YouTube, same with Facebook, same with all these big tech companies. So it's just amazing to me that they're like, oh, well, we're going to remove it so people don't post it, don't have certain silly things popped in their head. It's like, but at the same time, they're going to sit there and indulge you with those very same things. So it's just a weird time, folks. A weird freaking time to live. Great time to live, but also weird. The company also announced that it would prohibit new political, electoral, and social issue ads during the final week before the election. See, the final week before the election, not like kind of months out when certain ads could be displayed or anything. They're just going to make sure they ramp up certain things right before the election happens, kind of makes sure everything goes dark, just like they did with Joe Biden in the basement. Never heard from the guy. Had like 2 people show up to his campaigns while Trump was filling out arenas. People couldn't get in. You got like 18,000 people still standing outside in the standby line, but somehow Joe Biden won. You guys told me 81 million, 82 million people voted for that guy. That, I mean, it's still the that right there. Like, I just wish there'd be some investigative journalism on just that election, just some serious investigation. I know people are into the 2,000 mules. There's some problems with that, you guys. Okay, in terms of the systems that they use, the tracking. I love what they're doing. I'm not against it. I think they rushed the video. I think they rushed what they were doing. I think they need to gather more concrete, verifiable evidence, more of it, not just a few things. I think it would have been a lot more better. But I just wish there was more investigation of really what the hell was going on with that. Because if you look at this guy, Joe Biden, you're telling me 82 million people voted for that guy? Really? I have a lot of faith in America. But if that really is the case, where 82 million people voted for a guy that fumbles through his words, can't say a coherent sentence, doesn't know his name, doesn't know his wife's name, doesn't know his staff's name, thinks that he's running for the Senate, thinks that he's vice president multiple times. I mean, that's just a few off the top of my head. Look at the policies, pulls out Afghanistan willy-nilly, thinks inflation is going to be reduced. It's not. Says there's 0% inflation when it's 8.5. I mean, it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Did 82 million people really, really vote for that guy? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe there literally are people that literally hate Donald Trump so bad where they're like, I would rather have a guy that's being puppeted by some deep state people in suits in the United States government that's going to push certain agendas and narratives, whether that's the Great Reset, the Inflation Reduction Act, COVID-19 stimulus checks, all this stuff, climate crisis, rather than having a guy that wants to be pro-American, put America first, do great things, peace in the Middle East, rebuild our military. Maybe that's just where we're at as a country, where literally there's just people that are just willing to vote that way. Is it mind-blowing? Can you wrap your head around it? It is mind-blowing. You cannot wrap your head around it. It just doesn't make sense. Lastly, Meta announced additional policies under the heading Connecting People with Reliable Information. The company touted its continuing feature sending notifications to Facebook users with voting information and its partnership with election officials. So it goes on with they're investing $5 million in the fact checking and all this stuff. They're also working with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and others, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's blasting them for what they said. They're not working with him, but he's blasting them for what they're doing regarding the 2020 election. Remember, you guys, Meta and Facebook was basically not allowing you to post about the Hunter Biden laptop because it was disinformation. And not only was it disinformation, according to them, it was also being classified as misinformation and Russian disinformation, meaning it wasn't real. That's what Facebook was pushing. So this is the people that are going to fact check, be independent fact checkers, be the reliable sources for all of you. But yet they said something that was false about the Hunter Biden laptop. But yet they're the ones that are going to be the strong arm to get free speech out there to all of you to dictate what is truth. I think that speaks for itself, folks. I think it speaks for itself. Furthermore, the Biden administration, speaking of spending your taxpayer dollars on something that shouldn't be spent on at all, on Tuesday, the Biden administration announced that borrowers with the federal student loans of ITT Technical Institute will have their loans forgiven. Isn't that just fun? I hope you guys are happy paying for other people's education as adults. As adults, the education department stated that the college misrepresented the value of its programs. This comes from the Associated Press. The former students are protected under the federal borrower defense rule, established to protect against false advertising and fraud. All ITT Technical Institute students are, as far back as January 2005, will have their federal student loan debt canceled. This loan forgiveness impacts over 208,000 borrowers and passes $3.9 billion to taxpayers. $3.9 billion with a B that's passed on to us, you and I, lovely. For people, I mean, if you have student loans going back 2005, before I even graduated high school, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. And there might be even people on the viewers of the Bald Brad Show that struggle with student debt. If you're struggling with student debt and you're going on 20 years, I mean, you're doing something wrong here, folks. Close to 20 years. You're doing something real freaking wrong with your finances. You got to figure something out. Get a side job, get a third job if you have to, like me. You could do it to be debt free. Follow Dave Ramsey, 7 baby steps to become a millionaire. You could do it. Again, that's Dave Ramsey. Follow him. At least it's a step in the right direction. Even if you don't believe in all his values, it's a step in the right direction. You don't want to be one of these 208,000 borrowers that still, from January 2005, still have student loan debt they can't pay off from the feds. So now we have to foot the bill for it. Crazy. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona stated the evidence shows that for years, ITT Tech's leaders intentionally misled students about the quality of their programs to profit off federal student loan programs who no regard for the hardship this would cause. So it's our fault. It's our fault that this was misled. So we get to foot the bill for somebody else's problems. Very similar to the bailouts. It was the bank's fault. You know, they were sitting there giving loans, cashing out checks to people that shouldn't be taking out those loans in the first place because they didn't meet the credits. They knew they wouldn't get paid back. So who gets to foot the bill for other people's mistakes? Oh, it's you and I. Common theme with the Democrat Party, common theme with the progressive left. When somebody else does something wrong, you and I have to pay for it. Prime example, what we just talked about on the show yesterday, where you had a school system that's going to axe and get rid of white teachers first, even though they're more qualified, even though they have more experience, or in favor of keeping minority teachers who might be new, have no experience, because of the past discriminations that happened. So the injustices of the past have to be paid for by those in the current, which is what's happening here. There was injustice in the past, so us in the current that had no involvement in this. I didn't decide to go to ITT Tech. I didn't decide to make that student loan. I didn't decide to take out that debt from the federal government, but I have to pay for it still. We have to pay for it for somebody else's problems, for somebody else's mistakes. It's so common to have to do it. It's ridiculous. Again, I feel like that's the common word, ridiculous. We're in the upside down. It's head spinning. It's mind bending. It's the common theme. It's batshit crazy, folks. The education department accused the school of using high pressure tactics to enroll students. As a result, the department ruled that the ITT Tech could no longer enroll students using federal loans. The ruling forced the college to close its 130 campuses across the United States in 2016. I mean, you put people in high pressure situation and tactics to enroll students. I mean, I'm not saying those situations couldn't have happened, but it's like it's a mutual understanding between the business person and the consumer, right? We'll call it the consumer, the student that's enrolling. I mean, you're the one that should be doing the research. You're the one that should be looking at potentials of what happens after ITT Tech. You shouldn't just believe the institution that you're taking it from or that you're going. Like if USC, where I got my master's degree from, was like, these are all the perks, which they do. These are all the alumni. These are all the connections you're going to have. Do you think that I just took their word for it? Do you think I was like, hey, you know what? You're right. You're the ones that want my money, a private institution paying $60,000+ for a master's degree. I'm going to believe everything you say. Hell no. I did my research. I talked to people that went there. I looked at what other institutions have to offer. I did more research. So this whole idea that there's a high pressure situation that you're sitting there going, oh, you're twisting my arm, man. I guess I got to go ITT Technical Institute. It sounds silly. It sounds silly. But again, because people make silly decisions, who has to pay for it again? Obviously, you and I do. Banks make silly decisions. What do we have to do? We have to pay for it. The president makes silly decisions, like signing the $740 billion Inflation Reduction Act. Who has to pay for it? You and I do. It's just constant where it's money out of our damn pocket and we don't get to reap any of the reward. At least when we build freaking roads that we're driving on, we get to reap the reward of driving on the damn nice road. This stuff, you never see it. How much damn money do we spend that you and I never get to see? We never get to reap the benefit of it. Police department, we reap the benefit of having that protection and security in our communities. Tax dollars well spent. Tax dollars well freaking spent. But not this stuff. The news outlet reported that investigators discovered evidence that the school misled students to believe it would be easy to get a job with a degree from their institute. Really? Look, I'm not bashing on ITT Tech, but folks, it's not like Harvard. It's not like Yale. So I don't want to bash on it, but it's like going to community college. Like, hey, man, you go to community college, you're going to be getting paid six figures walking out of this bad boy with your freaking basket weaving major. Like, there's people that will believe that, believe it or not. There's people that sign up for these majors, basket weaving, lesbian dance theory, and they think they're going to walk out of college with like six figures. And they realize they can't get a job because nobody's hiring because it's basically a niche environment, a niche job, a niche sector. They can't get a job for it. And the job doesn't even pay six figures. It's like $30,000 and they just spent $250,000 on an education. But it's all our fault. So you're going to pay for it because some people made an asinine decision. If I make an asinine decision, why don't I just go buy a $20 million house, take out that loan? Oh, oops, I messed up. The bank twisted my arm, you guys. They said that I would be able to pay for it looking at my budget. They said that I would be just grand old fine, even though I couldn't even pay the property tax on it. So you know what? Because of that mistake, I think that my mortgage loan should be, I don't know. I think it should be canceled. I think there should be forgiveness, and I think you as a taxpayer should pay for it. How's that any freaking different than what took place here? You got swindled. You got wooed. So why should we have to pay for what took place there? That's my question. Where does it end? Where does it end? Previously, the Education Department canceled $1.9 billion in federal loan debt for ITT Tech students who applied for relief. With the new broad cancellation announcement, borrowers will not be required to apply to have their debt forgiven. Chief of Federal Student Loan Aid, or just federal student loans, Richard Conrad, accused the college of defrauding hundreds of thousands of students. He said, by delivering the loan relief students deserve, we are giving them the opportunity to resume their educational journey without their unfair burden of student debt they are carrying from a dishonest institution. So far, the Biden administration has canceled $32 billion of student loan debt for 1.6 million borrowers, and that number keeps climbing. Isn't that just lovely? Don't you just love where your taxpayer dollars are going this year, folks, for the last 2 years? In the pockets of other people, whether they got wooed or not. Sorry, it's not my fault. It's not my problem. Last bit of news. I guess it's kind of good news here for those that are Trumpies, for those that are on the Trump train like myself. Liz Cheney is in the news. The incumbent Republican. Well, folks, she's been defeated by Harriet. Is it Hagman? Somebody let me know in the comments. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But Yeah, she's been defeated in the GOP primary for Wyoming's at-large congressional district. I mean, I don't even know what she was thinking. Like, Trump is beloved by Republicans and conservatives for the most part. I'm not saying there isn't like a better candidate, i.e. Ron DeSantis, but Trump's up there, folks. The guy puts America first. He's the man. Okay, he's awesome. He goes after the news, the fake news media. Jim Acosta, you're sick, Jim. How do you even have a late night show, Jim? You got the ratings are abysmal. The Bald Brad show on YouTube gets better views than you do, Jim. Bald Brad has more subscribers than CNN Plus does, Jim, but you're going to sit there and tout this your fake news. So, look, I don't know what she was thinking pushing this whole January 6th debacle. If Trump really did something bad, which I don't think he's done, I wouldn't vote for the guy. I wouldn't be supporting him. I don't think he's done anything bad. I've seen the January 6th. Everybody in America's seen the freaking January 6th stuff. We've heard about it relentlessly since, from the Democrats, the news outlets. They're all in bed with the Democrats. They rub their shoulders and their feet. They lacquer them up on a weekly basis. We all have to hear about it. Nothing happened from the Trumps. Nothing happened from Donald Trump because he didn't speak as quickly as you would have liked, as I would have liked. You're going to sit there and push this whole thing because he said, go do things peacefully, and they didn't. You're going to rip the man. So I don't know what she was thinking about even trying to run again. You knew you weren't going to win, Liz. You knew nobody likes you. So this whole thing's being pushed here, that this January 6th thing, she's still going to go after Trump, yada, yada, yada. So check this out. The Decision Desk HQ has projected Harriet as the victor in the widely watched contest. Cheney, who was one of the 10 House Republicans to vote in favor of impeaching then-President Donald Trump last year in the wake of the January 6th Capitol riot, was ousted from her role as House Republican Conference Chair last year. She is one of the 2 Republican lawmakers sitting on the House Select Committee established to investigate the January 6th episode. There's nothing there, and the fact that you would even try to recover from what you've done is just asinine. It's so silly. Democratic lawmakers had urged people to vote for Cheney in the GOP primary. Just let that sink in. It wasn't Republicans urging people to vote for Cheney. Democrats were voting for a Republican to be put in the GOP primary. Let that sink in for a second. Who do you think's side is she on here? Do you think it's the Republicans, of which she has the R after, or do you think it's the Democrats, of which she is after the D with her? Okay, I'm trying to be careful in the way I said that because I don't want people to think the D meant dick and that she's getting the dick from the Republicans. That's not what I'm trying to say here. She just has the D from Democrat. I just want to be clear here because there's some weirdos that watch the show, okay? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Some of you guys write some weird things. I just don't want to be misunderstood by somebody and they get clipped and then this whole thing happened, okay? So Democratic lawmakers are urging people to vote for Cheney in the GOP primary. You have Representative Dean Phillips of Minnesota encouraging people to please consider temporarily switching parties and voting for Liz Cheney on or by August 16th. Bro, what do you say? I mean, I'm speechless that we're in a time where literally Democrats are telling other people just to switch over to the Republican side to get Liz Cheney in because of the January 6th debacle. After escaping the Capitol on January 6th, a few of us huddled in a safe room, glued to a TV in disbelief. It was there that Liz Cheney vowed to hold those responsible to account. Her principles transcend politics, and I'm inviting Wyoming Democrats and independent voters to do the same on August 16th. Well, it worked out just great, didn't it? So these Democrats are rooting for Republican all because of January 6th. By the way, I wasn't for January 6th. I wasn't for what those idiots did. They can claim they're conservatives and Republicans all they want. They're not. Those aren't values where conservatives and Republicans do. Yet a few idiots that went inside and did some stupid things. The vast majority of them stayed outside. They did whatever. Not even saying I agree with that. I'm not one that's really in the protesting myself. But if that's what people want to do, that's what they want to do. But I wasn't for the January 6th debacle. I just want to be clear. Again, I don't want to be clipped. I don't want to be people coming at me, oh, you just one of those Trumpies that are for January 6th. No, I think a lot of things could have been handled differently from the man. I don't think it's worthy of a January 6th committee. If they're going to do that to him on January 6th, like I've said endlessly, as well as Dan Bongino, Fox News, The Daily Wire, Blaze Media, where's all the investigations on Biden? Where's all the committees on Biden? Where's all that stuff? It doesn't go both ways. Former Republican President George W. Bush had given the maximum allowable donation of $2,900 to back Cheney in the primary. Money well spent, Bush, because look what happened, you knucklehead. According to the Houston Chronicle, which noted that Karl Rove also shelled out the maximum donation, Rove served as a senior advisor and deputy chief of staff to Bush. I mean, Bush is just, look, he's not a big fan of Trump. We get it. I'm not a big fan of Bush currently, just the things that he's coming out and saying, but he's going to back Cheney. Just what a knucklehead. Cheney is the daughter of Dick Cheney, which obviously makes sense why he'd probably back him. And I don't even remember the actual friendship and the working relationship that Dick Cheney and George Bush had. I don't know if it was a good thing. It's not one of the biographies or autobiographies that I've read. I know that the way Reagan ran his administration was quite unique, where he didn't necessarily micromanage. He left a lot of the duties up to his staff. Great book by Reagan. It is freaking long. It's so detailed. It's mind blowing. It's by Lou Cannon, but it's about Ronald Reagan. So again, Lou Cannon. I think it's LOU Cannon. It's like 1,700 pages. Super in depth. It goes over everything. Goes over conversations of Reagan. Phenomenal book. But there might be a similar one out there with Bush and Cheney. I might look into and maybe do a book review on it. Former President Donald Trump has endorsed Hagman last year while calling Cheney a warmonger and disloyal Republican, as well as a rhino, which is an acronym of the phrase Republican in name only. Yeah, I agree with that statement. Republican in name only. I mean, the values I don't think she upholds. Again, she's pushing this whole thing that I don't think needs to be pushed. But there you have it. That's an update of what's going on with Liz Cheney. She's ousted. She's gone. See you later. As the youngsters would say, bye, Felicia. You ain't coming back. So we hit the sweet spot, folks. We're over 40 minutes here. I can't believe I lasted. We're at the tail end of my voice. I don't know if you could tell. It is slowly going away. I'm not yelling as much. I'm not getting ramped up as much. I'm trying not to laugh as much so we can keep these podcasts rolling, folks. It's important we get this news out here. It's important that we share our opinions, and it's important that we have the right to free speech, regardless if big tech wants to allow us to do it or not. We will still fight it. We will still push free speech out there to people, to get conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our stuff, or Republican thought, whatever it may be. As always, folks, watch these clips all the way through. We have had speaking of that, a little end note here, we have had our data shoot through the roof, actually. So all our videos, ever since we made that announcement of how you could support the show, the numbers are up. So the watch time is up tremendously. The amount of people that are watching per episode is up. And the click rate is up as well. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job on supporting the show. I just want to thank you for all doing that, because it really does make a difference. It really does make an impact. And it really does push the channel to other people. Not every video is going to be successful. But like I said, if you're not into a specific thing that I'm talking about, even if you click on it, hit the like button, just put it on mute, which I sometimes do even for my own show. Why would I need to watch it? I've recorded, I've said it. But mute it, walk away, go to the bathroom, heat something up. It does support the show. It's always appreciated. I just want you guys to know that. So I will see you tomorrow back here on The Bald Brad Show.